locally at the foreign desk. Just hours after House Speaker Nancy Pelosi left Taiwan, China launched missiles directly into the waters off the island in retaliation. ABC's James Longman is at the foreign desk with more.
Some flights are being cancelled. Commercial shipping has had to be rerouted, and we're hearing reports of cyber attacks inside Taiwan as well. Now, a Chinese spokeswoman has said the drills were in response to what she called collusion between the United States and Taiwan. Now, this is a self-governing democracy, but China claims it as part of its own.
The Labor Department reports that 6,000 more people applied for unemployment benefits last week than the previous week, for a total of 260,000. Tomorrow, we will get monthly numbers for July. The heat index spiking near 100 degrees in eastern Kentucky, where hundreds have been left homeless by flooding.
National, state, and local authorities on the ground in Kentucky working to bring food, water, and electricity to those in the hard-hit areas. The catastrophic flooding and swift-moving waters prompted more than 2,000 water rescues. Officials say more than 400 are in temporary housing and shelters.
That's ABC's Morgan Norwood. Conspiracy theorist Alex Jones said for years the Sandy Hook massacre was just a hoax. Now he says he's 100% convinced it was real. The parents of one young victim are still suing him for defamation. They're looking for $150 million. This is ABC News.
There's still time for business owners to claim their federal aid under the Employee Retention Tax Credit Program. Cash refunds of up to $26,000 per employee are available for employers who continue to pay their employees during the COVID epidemic. Many businesses qualify and simply do not know it. All business types and industries may qualify. You can claim the credit even if you received a PPP loan. This is a cash payment and not a loan, and can be claimed now. The licensed CPAs and tax professionals at Ferguson, Timar and Associates have been serving business owners across the country for over 15 years. The best part is that until you receive your cash payment, you don't pay us a dime. Our tax credit specialists are available now at 833-ERC-FILE, and your tax payment estimate is quick, easy, and free. That's 833-ERC-FILE to qualify you and your business for up to $26,000 per employee of free federal aid. Call us now at 833-ERC-FILE. That's 833-ERC-FILE.
The U.S. and Iran again trying to save the 2015 nuclear deal. Hopes aren't high for a breakthrough, though. Here's ABC's Jordana Miller.
Fine-tuning, last-ditch negotiations, or a surprise summit. No one seems to know how to define the nuclear talks reopening in Vienna. Iran indicating it still has major issues with the latest EU draft of a deal to save the 2015 nuclear accord. But the Biden administration and the EU essentially saying there's no more room for significant changes and that Iran must drop all demands outside the nuclear issue. The U.S. envoy for Iran, Rob Malley, tweeting the U.S. is, quote, keeping expectations in check. Jordana Miller, ABC News, Jerusalem.
In the midst of chaos, there's also opportunity. Those the words of Chinese military strategist Sun Tzu. But unfortunately for the traveling public, con artists are taking his advice to heart.
It could have been any business sector, really, but the airline industry, with its surge in flight delays, cancellations, and lost luggage, is the perfect setting for fraud. The Better Business Bureau has seen an uptick in fake airline ticket booking sites or phony customer service numbers that charge travelers to rebook flights that were never canceled in the first place. The best advice, says the BBB, is to go straight to the airline's website to book your flight, to avoid stumbling onto a fake travel site set up solely to take your money. Jim Ryan, ABC News.
This is ABC News.
Millions of people use Zoom Phone, the innovative and feature-rich cloud phone system for businesses of any size. Zoom Phone is simple to use, whether you're on a mobile device, desktop, laptop, or desk phone. And because every call is important to your business, Zoom Phone was built with reliability in mind, using geographic redundancy to keep your communications online. Empower your workforce with Zoom Phone. Visit zoom.com/phone system. Zoom, how the world connects.
Sherry Preston, ABC News.
We're tracking a mostly dry Thursday, but it's going to be a hot and humid one for us with temperatures in the low 90s and partly cloudy skies. A stray shower is possible, and that continues as we head into tonight with mostly cloudy skies and an isolated shower. Low 70s for tonight. Then for our Friday, we head for highs in the upper 80s to low 90s with a few afternoon showers and storms. Otherwise, partly cloudy skies, so still keeping that summertime pattern with us the next couple of days. I'm meteorologist Anthony Baglione in the Weather Center.
72 degrees currently. We have cloudy skies right now. We had some sun, and we'll have more clouds and some more sun. But we know that we're going to have a high humidity today, so let's grin and bear it because it's going to be with us for a while. We've carried that before. We'll carry it again. It's 9:05. This is WCAB, serving the foothills of the Carolinas.
It's time now for My Great America with Jim and Butch, a conversation about positive things about this great country. And now here are Jim and Butch.
Well, here we are again, Butch, back in the Blue Room with My Great America with Jim and Butch.
Here we are again, Jim. It's such a blessing. It doesn't matter what the weather is. You know, happiness is based on happenings. And if your life is a life that is defined by things going well or things going right or everything going your way, you're going to live on a roller coaster of emotions. Happiness is based on happenings. Joy, unspeakable and full of glory, as it says in Scripture, and the half has never yet been told, doesn't come from happenings around us. It comes from a settled state of knowing whatever the day brings, I know that I've yielded my life to Jesus, and he's going to help guide me through it. If you're tired of all this is not an evangelistic program, but you are a Baptist, and I do go to Word of Faith Fellowship. So somewhere in the midst of it all, we're going to talk about Jesus for sure. If your life is one where you're just tired of the fog, the mist, the dark, and the dank, there is hope, and there's help, and there's healing, and there's heaven for those who are truly born again, and will let the fog lights of God's truth expressed in his word that never changes break through that darkness. And Jim, I'm telling you, people that walk around gloomy all the time and depressed all the time, you got to get deliverance. You got to get those dark, gnarly things out of you. And I think of you so often, Jim. I think of you often because I love you, and you're a dear friend, an older brother. And in the midst of it, I think, you know what, he just suits up and shows up every day. And there are days where, you know, I watch you drink your aloe vera juice at the end of the day to make sure that your gastrointestinal system is everything it needs to be. You know, and you're not a spring chicken, right? But you just make yourself get up and do it. And like my dear friend Sandra Norris often says, it's a choice.
It is a choice.
It's a choice.
It is a choice.
So those of you that are still wondering what your day is going to be, put a stake in the ground and make a choice. I am not going to be some kind of dead light bulb today.
Yeah.
You know, nobody wants to be around that. And you can't influence your world if you're constantly drugged down by things that hail you.
I've made a habit recently when I go to a store or a restaurant or something and the clerk comes by, my waitress, I generally ask him, are you having a good day? And sometimes it'll brighten them up and they'll respond and say, yeah, I'm having a pretty good day. And I don't know what they've been thinking about all along, but if I turn the thinking into, well, this is a pretty good day in spite of all of it, I'm having a good day.
Right. You know, it's so interesting because people will sometimes say, I just don't have a ministry. I just don't have any ways that I can change Rutherford County. And that's not true. Every encounter you have with another human being, and even in those moments where you're alone and you pray for people, you know, the unseen world is much more real than the seen world is. And as we pray for people and encourage people, it can be little things. I can't tell you the number of times I've gone to like Food Lion or gone to a store, and you'll see some elder person that's trying to get out the door and get into their car. And at first, it may be a little startling to them, especially because I have a voice that carries. I can't tell you the number through the years, the number of times that I've walked up behind somebody and said, may I help you? And they jump a little bit. But, you know, I just have made it a point and purposed in my heart, wherever I can, I want the person to leave saying, the needle of my encouragement has gone up, not down. And we get tempted during the day. I mean, folks that are so demonized, there's no other way to say it except say it. You know, they cut you off in traffic, or they get mad at you, or, you know, I'm not going to break the speed limit. So if you come up behind me and flash your lights on one of the local roads here, I'm not going to break the speed limit. I'm just not going to do it. And there's a reason for that. But there are lots of reasons for us to get agitated if we choose to be. But we can't give what we don't have. And if we don't possess light, love, and encouragement, Jim, whatever is going to pump up out of us is going to be toxic. And I know you don't want that, and I certainly don't either.
No, I don't either. I want to see people find those points in their life that they can be happy with, because goodness knows the national media will tread us down with a lot of negativity. We need to rise above it and be happy, because there's a lot of good things going on. Right.
And you need to realize, too, as it relates to media, there is a grand design and scheme behind all of this stuff. I'm going to give you one quick example. Not that we're going to delve into political things, because we're not. We're actually going to talk about Hobby Lobby in a minute. All right. A lot of excitement in the community about them coming. But let me give you an example of what's happening. And how do I know this? Well, because for 3 decades, I was saturated in that whole world. And now as a Democrat, but as a Democratic operative, and as a quick reminder, you know, I actually was involved in the strategies to try to lure young evangelical voters who were Republican to vote for Barack Obama in his first go-around. That's part of my story. And Jim bows his head every time I say it. I've fully repented. God's gotten a hold of my heart. And the abortion issue is what God used to really go deep to my heart and say, you cannot be loose when it comes to the whole issue of life. And that rebooted my life, it rebooted my politics and the like. But I will tell you this, for example, Rupert Murdoch is not a righteous man at all. He's a wicked man, and he owns Fox. And let me tell you what's happening right now, because this is the way the media works, and CNN's got all of its own problems, not the least of which is it's hemorrhaging money and losing ratings. But Rupert Murdoch, you watch, this is what's happening. He is elevating Ron DeSantis into more and more visible places. When Donald Trump was out in Arizona doing his live event out there, there was a 13-minute interview right at the same time with Ron DeSantis, who was on Fox 4 times in 1 week. Why is all of that happening? Because Rupert Murdoch is driven by one God, and that God is money. And what is the best thing that could happen if you are dispassionate about Jesus and you have no convictions, you have no real integrity? What's the best thing that could happen? You elevate Ron DeSantis, and you get Donald Trump really stirred about all of that. And all of a sudden, you've got gladiators that you can put out there. And what does that do? Increases your audience. What does that do? It means you can charge more for your advertising. Folks, that's what's happening. Don't ever for 1 minute think that Rupert Murdoch, the owner of Fox, loves, cares for, and wants to see the biblical foundation of America celebrated. That is just a lie. What he wants to see celebrated is a growing audience, more ad revenue, and greater influence. I mean, in many respects, the media has become kingmakers. And so that's not a disparaging comment about Fox, but the sacred cow doesn't always emit pure milk. And the sacred cows of whatever your favorite media outlet are, I promise you, there is more to the story.
Interesting to watch and see.
Okay, I wish you could see all the nonverbals that Jim has right now. You know, you have about 7 or 8 different smiles. Your smiles mean different things. They really do. And the smile that I just saw, now I'm not being loose or foolish here, the smile I just saw was, that's interesting, and let's move on. And so we are. You know what, here's a value, Jim, that whatever the circumstances is a biblical value, and one that we want to ask God to fortify in each of us, and it's the value of courage. C.S. Lewis once wrote that courage is one of the highest of the values because it's that place where your convictions are tested. And in the spirit of that, I was thinking of a story that was so inspiring that I came across early this morning. Let me read this to you. The biblical reference is 2 Kings 18:5, which in the New King James Version says, he trusted in the Lord God of Israel. And of course, what we know throughout Scripture, and it's more than just a Southern Baptist song, trust and obey, God has made it very clear that you cannot please him without faith. You have to trust him, and a belief that he rewards those who diligently seek him. Those two things are absolutely paramount. And so courage comes not in believing in ourselves or some inflated sense of I can take on anything. Courage comes when we believe and trust in the God of our salvation. So listen to this story. If you're lacking courage this morning, if you're somebody that's dealing with a bad doctor's diagnosis, maybe you're going for dialysis, you've had chemotherapy that's recently been in your regimen, you have prodigal children, you've got a business that's struggling, you've got relationships that are fractured, the only balm of Gilead, the only great physician in this grand universe that we have, in this pale blue orb we call Earth, is Jesus. And listen to a real-life story of where courage was so important. On June the 2nd, 1995, U.S. Air Force Captain Scott O'Grady was patrolling the United Nations designated no-fly zone over war-torn Bosnia when his F-16 fighter was struck by a surface-to-air missile at 27,000 feet above the earth. He desperately pulled his ejection lever and was catapulted into the sky, Jim, at 350 miles an hour. Remarkably, he managed to land unscathed right in the middle of enemy territory. That's when everything was happening there in Bosnia. The United Nations was involved, NATO was involved, the U.S. had pilots and other military people there. For 6 incredible days and nights, O'Grady eluded capture by the Bosnian Serbs who relentlessly hunted him. Utilizing his survival training to the maximum, O'Grady said it was also his faith in God that sustained him each and every one of those days. He said on the 3rd day on the ground, he experienced the love of God. This is while the Bosnian Serbs were going to capture him, torture him, present him to the world. He experienced the love of God to such a level that it took away all of his fear of death. On the 6th day, in a daring daylight rescue, an elite team of Marines moved in with a chopper, dodged enemy fire, and pulled the young American hero to safety. At a national press conference following his triumphant return, O'Grady said, quote, "If it wasn't for my love for God and God's love for me, I wouldn't be here right now." His inspirational and patriotic story is a brilliant testimony to Article 6 of the United States Military Code of Conduct. This is the military code of conduct that every service person, like you, Jim, subscribes to. I will never forget that I'm an American fighting for freedom, responsible for my actions, and dedicated to the principles which made my country free. I will trust in my God and in the United States of America. You know where that's from? Article 6 of the United States Military Code of Conduct. So in the middle of all of our woke debates, in the middle of all of our political debates, sometimes the main thing is the main thing, as you often say, Jim. That's something that our service people
great story.
Subscribe to, and courage is that moment where whatever is in you is tested, and we're all tested and tried and proven to be true each and every day. So let's be courageous.
Well, he could be a hero to a lot of people if we recognize the strength he had in acknowledging his God.
Right, and you know what? And the stories aren't grandiose. I mean, people sometimes say, you know, I can't be that. But you know what you can be? You can be everything God's called you to be. There's only one of you in the entire world. Your thumbprint, your fingerprint is unique. Your facial expressions, everything about you is unique. So you can be light and love in the midst of whatever your calling is. Just like Tim over at Circle B Barbecue.
Yes.
Yeah, he could be the best barbecue pitmaster that's out there. Why? Because he's gifted to serve up a culinary delight for customers each and every day.
Yes.
Or the person who works in sanitation for Forest City or for Rutherford, anywhere in the county, who can purpose in their heart, you know what, I'm going to see this as an act of service. I'm going to acknowledge God in each of my actions. Or the policemen and policewomen that go out there every day and risk their lives, or the folks that are at the fire station standing by waiting for the day's disaster, not knowing what it may be, or a grandmother, right, who has a grandchild that went through a divorce, and that wife, that mother, needs help with child care. Anywhere you are is a place where you can hold that bright light of God's love and encouragement and have courage, Jim.
You know, and somebody else said, the ladies and the gentlemen, too, who go to the nursery on Sunday mornings and sit with the babies while their parents can go out to worship service, that's a ministry for them.
Right.
because mothers and dads need that break, but then they have a chance to go out to the worship hour and sit there without the distractions of the baby.
Nothing is insignificant to God. He notices, he knows every thought, word, and deed. And you know, I've mentioned before, part of my ministry is I'd love to take hold of the elderly folks, and it's basically all women, because women consistently outlive men, and their husbands, their spouses are gone. So rolling in their wheelchairs or coming in their walkers on a Friday night, I'd love to be able to take hold of them, give them a hug, give them a kiss on the forehead, tell these 90-something champions for God, you know what, end well, and we're going to be there to cheer you on. I'm a firm believer, Jim, that it's not the big glamorized story. Social media has created an environment where people want to make a life that isn't real. Right. You have depressed people that have had millions of followers on Instagram that put a bullet through their head.
That's right.
And they painted this world of my life is perfect, and they've got young adolescent girls in some cases, or young men that are trying to be like whatever they see. Well, what they're seeing is not true.
Yes.
It's false, and we're called to live truly and speak truly and love truly. And I can't help but think of my grandfather, Papa, whose Bible, this is his Bible, one of his Bibles. He had a number of them. And I was saying this to you earlier. This is out of Matthew chapter 4 and 5. I have no idea what he was thinking, but he's got like a schematic and a flow chart pointing to different verses, writing in the margins. This is my grandmother's, the red one. They used to have a little Bible study every morning, and they prayed by name for every single one of their 44 grandchildren. You know, 122 great-grandchildren and 39 going on 40 great-greats. Now, they're both in heaven, but you know what? These Bibles I go to every so often, not because I worship the Bible, but I want to remember the legacy that I come from.
Sure.
And I want the fruit of their prayers to be good fruit, not fake fruit.
Yes.
I don't want plastic apples in the bowl. I want to be the real thing of God's light and love. That's called a pause. You know, let's talk for a minute as we come to the last part of My Great America this morning. It's wonderful we have Hobby Lobby on the way.
People are excited about Hobby Lobby.
Yeah. Now, did you get any definite word about when they're opening?
No definite word, but we suspect it'll be before Christmas.
Yeah. Well, let me just say this. For those of you that don't know, in 1970, and by the way, I've met the Greens. They were significant, several $100 million investors in a former client of mine, the Bible Museum up in Washington, D.C. If you haven't seen it, wonderful opportunity there. But for those that don't know, tell them where the Hobby Lobby is going to be.
It's over there in the shopping center. What is that? Quad Oaks Plaza? Is that the name of it?
I don't know. I asked you because you're the one that's supposed to know the names of those things.
It's beside of the down the road there from Big Lots.
Right, just round from Big Lot. It's like you're headed to Denny's, but
right,
right there. So, in 1970, David and Barbara Green took out a $600 loan to begin making miniature picture frames out of their house. 2 years later, that fledgling enterprise opened a 300-square-foot store in Oklahoma City, and Hobby Lobby was born. Today, it's got more than 900 stores. Hobby Lobby is the largest privately owned arts and crafts retailer in the world. It's got over 43,000 employees, operates in 47 states. Now, they offer over 70,000 items featuring home decor, seasonal decor, tableware, floral, art supplies, craft supplies, yarn, fabric, jewelry making, hobbies, and much more. Their corporate headquarters include over 10 million square feet of manufacturing, distribution, and an office complex in Oklahoma City. Now, they also have Mardell Christian and Education Supply. That's off to the side. But here's what's really interesting. You can be a successful Christian-based company, not in spite of your values, but because of them. Listen to this. Listen to this. They put in their corporate headquarters and reinforce in all of their stores across the states, 47 states in America, these things. We're committed to honoring the Lord in all we do by operating the company in a manner consistent with biblical principles. This is like their corporate stuff up on the wall. 2, offering our customers exceptional selections and values. 3, serving our employees and their families by establishing a work environment and company policies that build character, strengthen individuals, and nurture families. And lastly, providing a return on the family's investment, sharing the Lord's blessings with our employees, and investing in our community. That is an unabashed, courageous, this is who we are, and we don't care. Now, courage is what we've been talking about today, just like Scott O'Grady had when he was shot down. How was that courage put to the test for what's going to be a new neighbor of ours, Hobby Lobby? Well, let me tell you. They've been accused over the years, because of their evangelical leanings, they've been accused of being homophobic, of evangelizing in public schools, being anti-Semitic. They've been called a return to the Dark Ages by the New York Times. Okay, they've been attacked a lot. But here's what's so great. The Supreme Court granted a landmark victory, not just for Hobby Lobby, but for all people who have a claim to Christ on June 30th, 2014, ruling that individuals do not lose their religious freedom when they open a family business. The court ruled 5-4 in favor of David and Barbara Green. I've met him. I've had meetings with him. In their family business, Hobby Lobby didn't have to violate their faith or pay severe fines. Now, what was at stake here? Well, let me tell you real quickly. In Burwell versus Hobby Lobby, it was previously Sabellis versus Hobby Lobby stores, Health and Human Services had a mandate which would have required David and Barbara Green and their family business, Hobby Lobby, to provide and facilitate 4 potentially life-terminating drugs and devices in their health insurance plan against their religious convictions or pay severe fines. The Greens argued that the mandates substantially burden their religious freedoms and beliefs in violation of federal law, the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. In an opinion by Justice Alito, the court stated the plain terms of RFRA make it perfectly clear that Congress did not discriminate against men and women who wish to run their businesses as for-profit corporations in the manner required by their religious beliefs. Our responsibility is to enforce RFRA as written and under the standard that RFRA prescribes. The HHS contraceptive mandate is unlawful. That was a 5-4 decision, but much more important, because what was at stake, Jim? Businesses that want to be run, like FreightWorks.
Yes.
You know, it's not a company filled with evangelical Christians, but the founder, Josh Farmer, Ray Farmer, and others, all of the senior people are people of committed faith. And the court ruled that you don't just park your faith at the door when you have a business or you're an entrepreneur, and that was an incredibly important decision.
That's a very important decision, and Chick-fil-A, of course, is another one of those examples.
Right, and buck knives, if you've ever had a buck knife, there are biblical principles there. Service Master, yes. Which has Terminex and Molly Maids, and number one, I think, commercial cleaner of hospitals in the country. Service Master meant in the service of the master. I mean, the history going back to Downers Grove and their strong affiliation with the school that I went to, Wheaton College. So the fight is real. The fight is worth it. We don't have a great county, a great state, and a great nation, Jim, unless we're willing to let God create in us a courage that is born out of what he does in us, not out of what we do. And it says in Scripture, David ran to the giant. Now, if he had been running to the giant saying to himself, oh, I'm a young guy and I'm full of faith, that was false, the story would have been written differently. But it says that God had helped him kill the lion. God had helped him when he was a shepherd boy, kill the bear. And so whatever new giant stood in front of him, he ran to the giant, not because he thought, I'm young, I'm wiry, I'm strapping, and I'm a body built. No, he ran because he ran with the full authority, not the false authority, the full authority of a God who said that giant is going to fall. And the giants in your life, the giants in our county's life, our state's life, and our country's life will fall, but only when we fall first at the feet of Jesus and say, help me.
Challenging words to live by. Very encouraging. God bless America.
God bless America, Jim.
Thank you for joining us for My Great America with Jim and Butch. Join us each Tuesday and Thursday morning at 9:05 for this enlightening program, on 100.9 FM and 590 AM. It's My Great America with Jim and Butch.